Another challenge that we have is the dynamic that we're living, which we agreed to and chose and we're happy with, but doesn't mean it's easy, which is the dynamic of me being a stay-at-home mom, a homemaker, and Thomas being like the full-time working parent. Um, as a woman, I feel like there's a degree to which I'm built for this because it's just so practical in this season when you're bearing children. It makes so much sense. Like I'm about to be nursing a child. Like I don't think I should be at work. So it's not that I want to be working when I have an infant child, but there's another sense in which it's not that intuitive for me. I think homemaking is somewhat of a lost art. My mom was actually like a pretty good homemaker, but that's when she was home. She also worked more than full time very often. So it's not like I had the example of an actual like full time homemaker, but she was a good cook. She was good at cleaning. She was a firstborn child, very disciplined and so forth. But I just didn't really get all those good qualities from my mom. And I find this whole homemaking thing strenuous, honestly, and stressful to do like day in and day out. Toward the end of my pregnancy, I was joking with Thomas, like, when does my maternity leave start? Like, when you're a stay at home parent, like, you feel like your work doesn't ever really end. Like, you're always going to still, no matter, my belly's so big, but I still feel like I have to pick up around the house, cooked as much as I can, as much as I have the energy to and whatever. It just doesn't stop. I don't get to like hire a private chef and hire a cleaner and say, all right, like I'm about to have a baby. Let me hire you guys for like 3 months and like do the job. Let me hire a temp to do the job that I that I usually do. Um, so that's challenging. And what's challenging about it maritally, like when I think about Thomas, is that sometimes I want to ask Thomas for help. Um, and he does help, by the way, but he doesn't apply his mind to the things of the house the way I do. And I don't expect him to because he works a full-time job and everything you see called to marriage, all Thomas. Editing, recording the videos and just doing everything that you see us do, like it's all him. Like I just sit in front of the camera and then he does everything else. With the exception of like the occasional comment, even a lot of like the liking the comments and commenting, even a lot of that is him, but sometimes I come in and do that. Um, and so sometimes I would want to ask for help, but I'm mindful of the fact that like I see, like you guys don't see, I see how hard my husband works beyond his 9 to 5 job, and I'm convicted about asking him to do too much else. And I'm rather convicted about myself. Like, you could be like, you're a little lazy. Like, you could work harder. You could be more structured, create systems that make your house run smoothly and stuff. And that's all a work in progress. I'm actually hoping, somebody said, I don't know if it's true or not, whatever, but I took it as an encouragement for myself. Somebody was talking about the Proverbs 31 woman and how that she was seasoned. She wasn't 26 or even maybe my age, 33. She probably was an empty nester, she was probably 50s, 60s, something like that. Um, and so I do have, who I am today is not who I'm going to be 10 years from now by the grace of God, or 15 years from now. I expect to grow. I expect to get better at what I do, literally just by experience, just by time, by the grace of the Holy Spirit. But at the moment, it's not easy. I do feel like I wish I could do better and I want to do better. And I am making conscious efforts to do better. But yeah, it can be a challenge in the marriage where that, and I'm sure he thinks I could do better at times, but he's very gracious toward me. And I wish that he could do better sometimes. And I'm like, no, like he's doing enough, you know? So I don't know if this is all making sense, but yeah, I think that dynamic can be challenging and it's quite the sacrifice. I'm sure I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again because sometimes people think having one person, like having your wife be a stay-at-home wife or whatever, is like a luxury. Like mom getting to stay home is a luxury. Da, 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 da. Like no, it's actually like a huge sacrifice. If I was working the financial challenges we have, like, they wouldn't be a thing. We'd probably be in a house, like, living a different caliber of lifestyle. Um, but we choose to live very small to the point where, like, I'm cautious of even what I'm bringing. People are very generous. They ask, like, "What do you need for the baby?" Da, da, da. I'm so minimal about what I'm bringing in for this next baby because of space. We literally just don't even have a lot of space to just be crowding it with stuff that I may or may not need for the baby. So I got the bare basics, secondhand. Some things were gifted by my family, and then some things were secondhand. And then I'm just gonna wait till the baby gets here and see what else I need as it comes up. Then we'll see what we need and purchase accordingly, ask for help if we need it. But I'm not just gonna like store stuff because we don't have space for that. And not to mention, we don't have, a ton of money. And I don't like unnecessarily burdening people. Okay. So people like to be generous and I love that. And it's a blessing to be generous. But you don't want to one of my values is I don't like to unnecessarily burden people. I think a lot of the gifting, events, and so on and so forth that we do is unnecessary. That might be controversial, but I think so because we're not even doing it to like the poor and the needy. We do it to people who already have enough, but um we just sometimes it's genuine. Sometimes it's like a tit for tat thing. Like I do this so that when it's my turn, like, or sometimes it's just because you know the person, but not necessarily that they are in such need. Then there are people who like really need and have no family. And like God tells us to provide for the poor and the needy, but I don't see as much generosity sometimes in that direction. I think sometimes let me give you an example, okay? A couple somehow has $40,000 for a wedding, but is in need of gifts. Did they need gifts? Or if they had a $10,000 wedding, could they have used the other 30,000 to get everything else they needed? Life is complicated. Okay, maybe that's too controversial. Maybe that's another topic. But all that to say, I don't like to unnecessarily burden people. If I need help, I'm not afraid to ask for it. But I'm not just gonna like throw a bunch of extraneous stuff onto, my baby registry just because I can, just because I know people are generous and so on and so forth, you know? So I veered into another topic, but that's all.